Welcome to the Amongst Friends podcast. This is Nick, Brandon, and Barrett. Today we're going to be playing Final Fantasy VII. One of us has never played it, and two of us have played it many times. So here we go.
We're on PS5, right? And Brandon, you never even played the original, right?
No.
This is okay. Oh, now we gotta pick the difficulty.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Probably should do easy, don't you think?
I just don't know the difference between the classic and the normal.
What did
A
you
lot.
do, Barrett?
Pretty drastic. What did I do?
I think I did normal. Yeah, I think I did normal.
I played this on the hardest, for sure.
Go for it.
But the classic
probably
mode,
why it took me way too long to beat it, and I took a very extended break from it, came back to it. But
that makes sense. Oh, this cutscene. Hear the dramatic music playing. I'm sorry, don't like it. Cancel it. Play something else.
Hey, that name that just popped up, I've been seeing a lot lately because I recently I just finished
Kingdom Hearts?
Kingdom Hearts 1.
Yeah.
And
I swear to God. Go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say I started it Thursday night and then finished it yesterday. I both love it and hate it, mainly because it's 20 years old.
you're talking about Kingdom Hearts 1, right?
Yeah.
And you finished it in that amount of time?
Yeah.
How quick?
Now I didn't go back and get all the trinities, but it was roughly 28, 29 hours.
Okay.
So I think on how long to beat, it was like, if you rush it, it's like 25, but the average is around 30.
I think I've played, and I won't get too hung up on the Kingdom Hearts conversation, but I think I've played the first Kingdom Hearts probably like 12 or 15 times. So I used to have like all these files with different builds. Like I tried to make myself like a summoner build, which is pretty much pointless in Kingdom Hearts because it's like, you know, what is it? What's the difference going to be? But yeah. Okay, so Final Fantasy VII.
Already, this just looks amazing.
Oh, dude, the graphics are incredible. I'll wait till you see where the transitions from cutscene to gameplay. It's gonna blow your mind.
I'm so glad they waited. We can start talking about the long rumor that this was even gonna happen, and then it happened, and it holds up and added so much more depth and just emotion to the whole story. Like it was like the most. It picked up where Kingdom Hearts 3 failed. You know, they were both announced around, or Kingdom Hearts 3 was announced in like 2013, 2012, 2013, and then it took it 7 years to happen.
Yeah.
And this similarly had been was almost like the Half-Life 3 of like remake jokes, and then it actually was going to happen, and it seems like the creators just paid all the attention to detail and really like even bringing like more characters to the front, like side characters to make you care about them more just because they've got more agency.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like, you know what's crazy? I'm like looking at this video, looking at play Brandon, and I'm like, this still looks better than most of the games we've gotten in the past. Like, it looks great. Like, and dude, like I was just standing watching Cloud playing recently. Cloud was just standing, you know, I was resting like in the PC, right? And like his eyes, like his pupils and stuff would just kind of like dart around, and I just kind of looked, and it was so lifelike, and I moved the camera around, and I was like, this is like unbelievable. It looks as good, if not better, than Advent Children, which is wild to me. But yeah, they put every dollar into its production, and I can't wait for the new one. But we'll talk about the new one more.
This opening cutscene with him on the train, riding on the top of the train, I love it even more because Crisis Core did it too with Zack.
Yeah.
But Zack jumps from a helicopter and lands on the train, and rides the train and sings forward pretty much. Like it, I don't know.
It's like a religious experience if you played the original.
Yeah.
But I think it's also awesome that, you know, Brandon hasn't played the original. When did you want to play the game?
Get down here,
what made you want to play this game?
Oh, look at that entrance. We did this quick little flip.
For the remake specifically, I think I was at Barrett's house like when the demo came out. I played it there, and I think that was probably
Halt! Who goes there?
probably only like the second time I'd ever played anything Final Fantasy related. I mean, I've played maybe before that, maybe about an hour or so of 15, and that was just through my wife getting it for Xbox, like back when we first started dating.
So you
And,
push that car into a warehouse for about an hour, and then
yeah, that's
that
about.
was about it.
Oh, that, yeah. I was like, what the hell?
Beginning of the
Yeah.
game, like all I think about is like pushing that car and breaking down.
I
don't know.
remember I started driving, and like that would just kind of like turn me off.
Yeah.
For the most part.
I had a hard time showing anyone that game and defending it. I was like,
You're coming with us. Nice
my
and
dad, I was
easy.
like, I wanted to show my dad like how we like that. So this is the game, and like you're pushing the car. I'm like, yeah, but it's like a story moment. And he's just looking at me like, are you crazy? Like, why would anyone want to do this? And I thought about it later, and I was like,
Who in the
yeah,
hell?
this isn't the best. This isn't the best opening.
Hands where I can see them.
I definitely had the rose-colored glasses for that game at the beginning too, and then as time has gone on, I've been like, I feel less confident about how I felt about that game.
Amen to that. But this one, I would say I feel, and I'm talking specifically about the remake. I feel better about it than I did when it came out. I actually was kind of like really critical of it when it came out. Now I'm looking at it and I'm just like, and have lately and just been like, wow, like
Enough of this.
I don't think I realized how good it was at the time and how much better it would be than like so many other games that would release. And it's even better than Final Fantasy 16 in a lot of ways. But doesn't the combat feel good? Brent?
Yes, and
Was never in doubt.
I think in a way, because of the way it uses the like ability menu and everything like that menu. Obviously, just
Playing Kingdom Hearts.
recently, like
Yeah,
I'm playing
amen.
Kingdom Hearts, so it's like it that system but better.
Yep, it is. You're absolutely 100% right. It's like they improved the Kingdom Hearts system, made it a little bit more strategic. And does time slow down in Kingdom Hearts when you bring up the quick select menu or the spell menu?
Not in one. I don't know.
Drop the weapon.
Okay. Because I thought that was a great
Yeah, what he
way to
said.
still kind of make it feel turn-based, while still making it really quick and action focused.
Oh yeah, there's a classic mode for this too. Did you ever play it on that?
I think I saw it, and it just sounded like it's gonna sound cocky. It didn't sound like I needed it.
You're
Like,
coming
it
with
sounded
us.
like it gave
Can't
me
get
more time to
surrounded.
think, and it probably felt a little bit more turn-based. And I was like, I think I get the same experience, except faster by doing the new standard mode, you know? But no, I think I tried it briefly. Did you try it?
No, I didn't try it. I remember like looking at what it
Nothing
was
to
whenever the game first came out, but I've since forgot like how it changed the gameplay. I do remember thinking that it it seemed like it made it more easy because it paused more in combat, I guess, whenever you needed to switch between things. But I couldn't remember exactly what it did to change it. I just remembered that there was another one that I'm thinking of. We started.
I do know you unlock a new mode. There's like the new game plus or whatever I want to say. But I don't think I played it on that. Brandon, I don't know if it tells you, but I think if you hit L2 or R2, I think you can toggle the map, like from a compass to having like an actual map in your top right corner. Like I said, I don't think it's in the tutorial.
Yeah, it's L2.
But it can make it more immersive at times when you don't need the compass. You get some potions. Like, I even geek out, like, of the reflection on the edge of the blade. Like, it's just a great looking game.
Yeah, great looking, and a game that definitely deserves the work that's been done to it. Because like I mean, it's to be respected as the original with the turn-based strategy and all that. Like, I don't think I would like it as much if they fully recreated that with these graphics.
So what soldier
I would definitely like that they went just full-on action RPG with it. Essentially, that you like Kingdom Hearts, just and made it makes the game entirely more immersive.
Yeah. Well, and I was a little, like I said, critical of the fact they went with the action route, and then you play it, and I think for me, I realized like, oh, if they could have animated the game back then in a way that would be like this and still convey all the moves and abilities and spells as well as they did, they would have totally done it that way. The fact that it was turn-based, I don't think was just like the most important thing about the combat. I think they just wanted to be able to deliver like all these amazing visuals and moves and stuff, and there was probably just no way to do that at the time without making it turn-based, and I don't know PS1. So I think it's still faithful, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I agree.
I was just going to say, like, from the coming from somebody that hasn't necessarily played the originals, I do think I know remakes, reboots, all these different things. I know they get a lot of negative attention because of it being unoriginal to an extent. I do think things like this and the Resident Evil remakes do it justice because in a way it is them making the game the way they originally envisioned it. I think to some degree, because technology just wasn't able to produce this back then.
I mean, it definitely holds the belt of remakes, like remakes and reboots like this. I can't think of because I've not really been, the only remakes I've been against are like Disney doing the live action remakes. I'm just like, that's where I'm like, okay, come on. But like remaking a game to add more enjoyment and just kind of like, really be like a love letter to the original.
Yeah.
Like this game over any of them. It's on, I mean, I don't know if there's as much of a remake like this is, like this, they took the same story, same character, same game and made a whole new game that's more current. Like what other game has done that?
I can't think of any. And I played a lot of remakes lately too. Like I played like Resident Evil 4. I played the Mario RPG and stuff. And they all do a really good job at like,
Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil games, they do it. I guess that's one way to look at it. Think about this.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of like what other games like fully have just like remade the game to give you a new, better, and almost be totally drastically different. Because I feel like the new Resident Evil games kind of went more of the like Resident Evil 7 and 8 route. They just wanted to give everything that kind of touch. But like I don't know. This is still way better in my opinion. It's like I love Resident Evil games, but
has a lot more depth, right, for the gameplay. And but like, to your point though, they didn't have to remake the Resident Evil games as much because they were more
Yeah.
recent. Like when they remade this, like the game, like I've shown my kids the original, and they're like, oh wow, that's Cloud. Like you see him with the little gummy arms, and they look like little
Yeah.
toys. And I'm like, yeah, it's it. They're like, oh wow, so they like totally like had to start from scratch when they remade this. And you're like, yeah, they really did.
Like, that's another thing. He's not wearing his purple soldier,
That's true.
his soldier second class armor that he's wearing.
Is he not?
No, he's wearing first class. He's wearing what Zach dressed him in at the end of Crisis Core.
You know what? That's a nice little detail. See,
Yeah,
that's
like-
I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah, he at the end of Crisis Core, you're basically dragging Cloud through the end as Zach, like carrying his limp body, and at some point his clothes are all like drenched and shit, and he's got to get him a change of clothes, and he finds him the soldier first class in the closet, puts him in that, and it's kind of like a poetic trade-off at the end where he's setting up his legacy.
Sounds like Stolen Valor to me. I've seen those YouTube videos, man, where people put on the Marine Marine outfit and get called out. It's just a matter of time. No, I'm kidding. But no, that's fun. I didn't. Yeah, that shows how hardcore you are, Barrett, about the lore. It's awesome.
I definitely didn't like. I liked Final Fantasy a lot. I grew closer to the characters because of how they were depicted in Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. And then when Crisis Core happened, I fell in love all over. And I remember for a while I was like, "Fuck Cloud, he's a bitch." Especially if you're reading his dialogue in 7, the original 7. Like he is like in the beginning of this game too, but he's just so angsty and short, and like,
Oh yeah,
he doesn't even want to be there. But Crisis Core 1, it just gives you so much more context for why he is like that. He used to be a little bit more open. He had friends, and he found someone he trusted and really liked, and he lost that person, and now he's carrying the burden that guy was carrying, and he's not so optimistic about it. And I don't know. Yeah, I love the story of these games, man.
I think for me, like Final Fantasy, for a long time, like I think I built it up as more in my mind than the games delivered on. I think at least with older ones, like I just heard so much about it, people talk about how amazing they were, and then you play them, but they were a lot of them were old to me at that point when I started trying them out. But 7, I think, really kicked it off into be this like super high concept fantasy with like really amazing visuals and storytelling and graphics and stuff. And that's to me kind of, to this day, it kind of is responsible. 7 is for launching the game into that, I guess, level of quality and state of the artness, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
So 7 is definitely your favorite, right, Barrett? Would you say?
Like, I'll say the whole 7 series, 7 as a group, including Advent Children, and I only played Dirge of Cerberus one time, but I mean, I remember just it being kind of flashy and fun, but it wasn't anything I wanted to revisit. But the whole like Final Fantasy VII Story Collective is definitely my favorite. But I'd say following that is 10, and I didn't like anything that came after it. As far as I didn't like, meaning 10-2. I didn't like 10-2 at all.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I mean, I didn't like 12. 13 was good. 13 was a weird case where like 13, I liked 13-3 than any of them because it felt like Final Fantasy. It felt like it went back to like more of a Final Fantasy feel on that one.
Yeah.
But 7 and 10 are definitely my favorites.
So, you know Tifa, right? It's not really my
What about you,
business,
Nick?
Brandon, were you
Are
saying
you
something?
guys close?
I was just going to ask
What
more
about
along the
me?
lines of you know what your intros to Final Fantasy were, and all the different ones you've played for both of you.
Yeah, I'll go.
Go ahead, Nick.
Man, that's such a long question or a long answer.
Take it
Gosh.
away.
Man, I heard about, okay, so like I heard about Final Fantasy for years before I played it. Yeah, 'cause there's some people who can say like, oh yeah, I've been playing since they were on Super Nintendo Entertainment System and stuff. That's great. But like it took a long time for me to even be appealed by the turn-based battle system. I was like, you have to wait. Like I remember literally making fun of like JRPGs when I was a kid with my friends who were like, you got to like take your turns getting hit and stuff. And, you know, now I look back, it's like so ignorant because it's just a different style of gameplay. But yeah, so for a while, it was just kind of like, not really for me. I like Zelda where when I press a button, my sword swings. I don't like having to pick my attacks and all this stuff. But, yeah, like the hype around Final Fantasy just kind of grew and grew from 6, and then there was 7, and then there was 8, and then 10 came out. So I played 10. I think that was my introduction, was Final Fantasy 10. And I just saw some trailers for it, and I'd gotten a PS2, and I was like, this looks really cool. Like, looks really epic and beautiful, and like the cutscenes look amazing. But I'll
They
back up
hold
real
up.
quick. Yeah, they hold up great, but I'll back up a second too and say that Kingdom Hearts was a big introduction, like for most of the characters, just like Barrett was saying. And I was like, oh, these guys are cool. And Cloud was portrayed so cool in that, and you were like, where you didn't have intros before, all of a sudden you were like, oh, this character is pretty neat. Like, what's his story? Like, and then Auron in not Final Fantasy, Auron in Kingdom Hearts 2 was the same thing, and so you're like just getting more intrigued about the series. And Square did a great job at you know, putting them in Kingdom Hearts and stuff, and so you just wanted to find out more. So yeah, that was all kind of what got me interested. Then I played 10, and I didn't love it right away. I really struggled with like understanding the sphere grid and understanding some of the story. And I hadn't like watched much anime or anything at that point in my life. So like there's too like a cultural gap in how like JRPGs and stuff are written, where it's like it's not like watching Batman the animated series, right? Like it's totally different type of character qualities. And some of the stuff they say and do is weird. And it took me years to realize like, oh, this is developed by an entirely different culture. And then I started appreciating it and like learning more about like, okay, what does this mean? Why do they, why are the characters acting this way? And then you realize like so much of it's inspired by manga and anime, how they write characters, how they voice the characters. Like I remember Titus laughing maniacally in Final Fantasy X, and anyone who's probably played it knows what I'm talking about. But I'm just like, this is so stupid. Like, who wrote this? Now I
Such
look
a
at it and I'm
Sora
like, this is,
moment, though.
yeah, it's such a, well,
Like the
then
big
you realize
cheese at the
like,
beginning in Traverse Town.
yeah, dude. And then you realize like, oh, you know what? It's just a different type of storytelling, and it's actually pretty cool. And, it's cool that the game's getting, told in this way and stuff. So anyway, then I played Final Fantasy VII like a couple years after that. And at that point, it was like a greatest hits. I'd heard so much about it. I'd seen like Advent Children, I think, at that point, and I was like, I just have to play this game. Like, I feel like I'm as someone who loves games and loves RPGs and all this different stuff, I gotta play it. And so yeah, I did. And what's crazy is like there were so many moments in the game that no one had ever talked about, right? So there was a whole story that I was like, oh, no one talks about this. They talk about like Cloud riding the bike and he's got a big sword, but there was a lot of like emotional, psychological stuff with trauma and like being a good person and being strong and stuff that I was like, oh wow, like this is like really deep and upsetting, and there's like a sense of loss and all these different things like it really explored and stuff. So yeah, that's what really blew me away. And then I was a fan. I wouldn't say like I'm a mega fan of Final Fantasy VII, but I love it. I love the characters, and it's one of the best games I think ever made. It's just yeah. So that's kind of my experience with it. And then okay, so since then, yeah, the series has been awesome to me. I loved Final Fantasy 12. That's one of my favorite games ever. I love the battle system. I thought it was really different than all the other Final Fantasies. It almost feels like it shouldn't be a Final Fantasy, but just because it has such a different graphical style and stuff. I love 12. 13 I had a hard time getting into, but I can't remember why. I think it might just been because I didn't have like a PlayStation at the time. And I want to go back and play it. I hope they bring a PS5. Then 15 was really interesting, and I loved it when I played it. But then I was kind of like, this feels unfinished and weird, and I don't understand all the choices, and it feels like they didn't get to do everything they wanted to do. And I still feel that way to this day. Recently played 16, love 16. Like I think they really surprisingly got back to a lot of things that make the series great, and it's beautiful. It's not perfect. It's not the best Final Fantasy, but it's probably one of my favorites, and it's one of my favorite games of last year. So yeah, that's my long-winded experience with Final Fantasy. And, yeah. What about you, Barrett?
For me, it did start with Final Fantasy VII, but I had a incomplete like intro to it. I had this friend that I grew up next to when in the first neighborhood I lived in till I was about 10 years old, and he lived right next to me. We'd hang out all the time. We'd play Pokemon games together, you know, link cables, and I'd go over to his house and he'd show me, like, honestly, most of my interests now, video game wise, that like have been with me a long time, probably was introduced to by this guy. His name was Jordan. And I mean, he introduced me to games like Final Fantasy, Shadow of the Colossus. I remember we played Kingdom Hearts together, Metroid. Like a lot of things that I like a lot now stems from like playing games with this guy. In Final Fantasy VII, I would watch him play it at his house, and I remember once he got like either had already beat it or was like past, because it was a 3-disc game. And once it got past the first disc, he let me borrow the first disc. So for the longest time, I had only been able to play that first disc worth of game, and got left on a bit of a cliffhanger. And I remember, so I didn't finish the game before Kingdom Hearts came out. I'd played enough to where I liked Final Fantasy VII. It wasn't like it wasn't my favorite game ever at that point, but like you said, being introduced to this character more so through Kingdom Hearts, and like how cool Cloud was in that. You can't, like, with his wrapped up sword, and just he looked so cool. And his entrance on was it Hercules' World?
Mm-hmm.
It was just so cool, and I had to go back and revisit it. And I remember trying to find a version of Final Fantasy on the PlayStation 1.
Mm-hmm.
Was so hard at one point, and probably it still is. And now it's just marked up, but like you could not find it. It was an elusive game, I feel like. And because we used to have this place in Cleveland called Rhino Games, and I remember how often I would call them and ask them if they had a copy of Final Fantasy VII.
Nice.
But so for the longest time, it was like this like game I had a lot of love for, but had never completed. And then Kingdom Hearts came around, and I went back, got a copy of it, and went back and beat it. Played it. I've played, like I said earlier, I've played it on its many different ports. When it came to the phone, when the Switch. Yeah, I've played it in different formats, but then from 7, I want to say I'd never played 8 completely. I've played the first part of the game twice, 2 or 3 times maybe, and just couldn't get into it. There's a different feel to the characters, I guess. It seemed more dramatic. It was really dramatic, but that's when the graphics like kicked it up. Like they went from they really started going the direction that we see Final Fantasy now with 8. 9 was the same. I've probably played less of 9 than 8. Started it twice. The last time I tried to play it was on the Switch, and got to a point where I was like, I don't even know where to go. And then you put it down for so long, you pick it up and you're like, what was I doing? And that happened to me times with that. and then 10. I mean, 10 rode the backs of Kingdom Hearts and Kingdom Hearts 2 as far, and like you mentioned, I almost forgot Auron was in Kingdom Hearts 2 for a minute until you mentioned it, but like all the ties between 7 and 10 with Kingdom Hearts was just so satisfying. Kind of jumping around a little bit, but I remember the different how people feel about Leon, Squall, whatever you want to call him from, and there was always this discourse, and I never really understood why they changed it, or like why, like I don't know that character well enough, but I remember like if I had a bunch of friends that liked Final Fantasy and referring certain people, you refer to Leon as Leon, they're like Squall. I'm like, sure, you know, you just kind of feel like, but I know him as Leon. That tells you like, okay, you play Kingdom Hearts, but
That's our target.
um,
The reactor core.
I love 10 so much. 10-2 is a bit of a disappointment. I've got pretty more. I could probably revisit it and feel better about it now, but I remember having very, very negative feelings about that game. I played a little bit of the 11 MMO at my friend Dylan's house when I was in high school. I remember seeing just bits and pieces of it, but I'm not really familiar with it. 12, I feel similarly that I do with 10-2, where it just like something about it didn't feel like a Final Fantasy game. I couldn't get into it. Like the I might have just been interested in different things at the time, but I do remember like being excited for Final Fantasy 12 and putting it down really fast because something just didn't connect for me. With 13, when I graduated high school, my mom got me a shadow box and my nana gave me $60. That's all. That's, you know, that was my gifts for you graduated. Here's some gifts. I got a shadow box for my mom.
Pause. What's a shadow box?
Like a picture frame box that's got like old memory kind of stuff in it. You know, you can hang it on the wall.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
It was just like a sweet mom thing to give to your son that just graduated. Here's some memorabilia in a shadow, you know, in a case, you know, that you can hang on the wall. And then my nana gave me $60 in cash. And I literally, it was either that day or the next, I went straight to GameStop and bought Final Fantasy 13. I remember being so hyped about it. Like me and my friend Dylan, I was talking about that I played 11 at his house, or watched him play 11. I remember being so excited about 13 and it taking me, I mean, I beat that game. But like, I remember at a certain point, I just remember being like, this just isn't really clicking with this one either. But I skipped over, I'd say up there with 7 and Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 10, and Final Fantasy 3 on the DS. I don't know if you played that, Nick. It wasn't a remake of 3. It was like a different. There's some sort of mix around with the numbers between Japanese and English.
Yeah.
But 3 on the DS was like a chibi-fied version of it, I guess, of Final Fantasy 4 maybe, or 2. I can't remember how it works. But I loved Final Fantasy 3 on the DS. That one I played all of. Played Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles on the DS. I loved the DS installments. And then 15 or 14 put me to sleep, the MMO for that, and $15 a month for like 1 month, and I'd be playing, like I'd pass out on the couch while I was playing it. It just did not keep. It was too much grinding, slow paced. Like, it was beautiful, and I'm glad that it exists. And at one point, it had a bigger player base than World of Warcraft, so that's cool. But not for me. I feel the same with 15 as you do, where it's like, you know, it was good in the moment, and then something about it did feel totally unfinished. Like it was missing key elements to really make you care about a lot of things and not feel like the world seemed like not very lived in. Just, I don't know. And 16 is the best installment that they've had as far as like an engaging story. That one, I mean, it has the running against 7 to have like some of my favorite moments and just badassery. It's definitely like dramatize the Final Fantasy game in a way that makes it feel fresh and also like a Final Fantasy game, especially with a lot of like the linear areas that you go through. Like it's not, I feel like 15 was trying to be way too big, and 16 like really fine-tuned, like, okay, like we like the combat, but maybe we should not have such a big area to get lost in, and for what, there's no real reward for searching around everywhere. You could do all those dungeons in 15, but they didn't, some of them were just like way too hard, and you're like, okay, what do I even get for this?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say I like less of, like, I don't like as many of them, of the Final Fantasy games a whole lot, but the ones I like, I love. Absolutely love. And a lot of it, like I said, my introduction was to the first part of this game and watching a friend play it and playing a little bit myself, but Kingdom Hearts, I owe it the most to, for making me like really love the characters. And I didn't really mention it here, but I've mentioned it already. Crisis Core on the PSP just stole me. That game stole me and fucked me up. I've probably played, I know I've played that one through more than any of the others. But
no, I get it. I gotta play Crisis Core. I don't know why I didn't when I had the chance. Yeah, I think it's on sale right now. I don't have it.
I have a physical copy. I will hand you. You play it. Get it back to me whenever you're done. No rush.
You have it for PS5?
PS5.
Okay.
Yeah, you've got to play that game, dude.
What if I just watch a Let's Play?
You can do that. You just, I mean, you need to. Yeah, I mean, because it's really not. I'll be honest. It's really not the. They made the remake feel a lot like this, with. It still has elements from the PSP combat, but like it does feel a lot more like a run-around fluid like this. Just can't do as much flashy stuff. But it is the story. I don't know. Zack's story and the development of the three major Soldier First Class characters that he kind of looks up to. It's Sephiroth. It's like Sephiroth was a good guy, and you see where he goes crazy in that game. Like you see why he is, a lot of why he is how he is in this. Like why he's a bad guy.
Okay.
And then the mentorship between like Zack and Angeal, which is who passed down the Buster Sword to him. Yeah, totally worth playing, at least for the story. So you could even Let's Play or just watch all the cutscenes. But
no, I think I'll play it. Well, my concern is that it's like the remake is going to be so much better in gameplay terms that I'll just be like disappointed with Crisis Core on PS5.
It is a PSP remake, so it's definitely going to feel dated at times, but it was, at the time, it had the emotional level of a Kingdom Hearts game, where Final Fantasy VII, it did, but it, like, the graphics kind of take away sometimes at how heavy a moment can be. And Crisis Core did a great job of, like, in this world with some of these characters, especially Aerith, bro, like just making you care more about certain relationships between people. And I don't know, if you're invested in the story and want to know more, it's an unmissable. Like, you got to play it, because I have a different opinion of the characters in this game after I played Crisis Core.
And do you like the Advent Children movie?
Yeah, I liked it. I need to rewatch it, because like I think I was telling you guys before about how like there's something at the end of it that makes me think it was leading to Advent Children that I didn't catch until I played it this last time. But I definitely need to rewatch that movie. And it's supposed to get a theatrical release, I think, ahead of the game. I don't know if it's going to be around here, but if it is,
That'd be cool.
let's go, boys. Like, we got to.
Yeah. I've seen it, but never in theaters. I don't even know if it was in theaters when it came out in the U.S.
I got it from Blockbuster the first time I saw it.
Nice. So checking in with you, Brandon. How you doing? You fighting this scorpion thing?
I'm actually not sure what I'm doing right now because it doesn't feel like I'm doing anything.
He's pretty beefy. You switch back and forth between Barrett and Cloud. If you switch over to, like right now, you want to switch over to Barrett and be shooting him on the wall.
Do you have lightning? Does he have lightning equipped?
Spells are gonna, thunder. Yeah, spells are gonna do more damage to him. Especially, I think thunders.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, are there different parts you can target of him yet?
Not
Not yet. Not that I've seen.
Okay. Is he down?
How do you change targets? Because right now it changes.
Bumpers? Is it one of your L1 or R1?
I think it's left stick when you're locked on.
There. Did you move it just then? No.
Oh, the right stick
me
when you move it.
Oh, that's
There you
what I
go.
meant, sorry. Yep.
Weak
I'm
spot.
playing that.
It says reduced.
It wouldn't be much of a weapon if it went down easy.
You're doing it. As long as you has it put him on a timer yet?
I don't think he'll get the timer until the after. Right?
I can't remember when the timer was. I know at one point they're
Pretty
like,
sure it's when they blow up the reactor. They start the reactor. When they beats this, it'll start a kind of gotta get out situation.
dude, I remember seeing this boss battle though shown at E3, one of the conferences, and just thinking, there's no way the game's gonna look that good. Like, there's just no way. And then you get it, and you're in this boss fight, and it's switching between like the cutscene and stuff, and you're just like, this is unbelievable that games look this good. And it still holds up. It still looks like they made it yesterday, in my opinion. And then the new one looks ridiculous, you know, like.
And you can put on a Buster Sword and pretend you're playing this. Oh, you're talking about Rebirth. I was thinking of 16. You put on that Buster Sword and you're just playing.
Oh, yeah,
you're
yeah.
in a different universe.
No,
But yeah.
well, both.
All the combos that you can do look really cool, like synergy attacks with different
Yeah.
party members, and just like this game spends a lot of time using pretty much the same party members. Like always, you don't get very many to choose from in this one, and then I feel like we're getting a whole library of them in the second one.
Yeah, I'm really hoping so. I read some interview with the developers that they seem to allude to you getting a new party member that perhaps was not in the original games.
If it's that, it looks like it could
I think
be.
it could be. Yeah, I was reading something about that it could be that Zach is alive in this timeline.
Yeah, I mean they could. Sorry, I wasn't trying to interrupt you. With the way
Oh, no, you're good.
Crisis Core ends, you should think that he's dead, but I mean, crazier things have happened in stories where they've said someone's dead and they're not. And remaking the game is a good opportunity to kind of rewrite that. I'm not
Yep.
against it. I'm just curious as to how they would do it if they did, because he's definitely been more present in the trailers than he was through all of 7 for this second part. So it just leads me to believe, like, I mean, they're definitely doing something more. There's going to be playable missions with him, I'm sure, whether they're flashbacks or whatever, but it looked like he was in the current time. I don't know.
It's gonna be cool playing as Sephiroth in those flashbacks. I remember that was always a surprise in the original. I was like, what? We're actually broing it out right now. I think you're making good progress on him though, Brandon. He's just
Yeah, I feel
he's
like
a
I
tricky
am.
boss.
I mean, also the turn-based version of this boss fight takes a while too.
Then take cover already.
Yeah.
He's spongy.
He sure is.
I do love
I'm right.
that this game you can switch between characters like this. I mean,
Yes.
it makes sense because you could program all their attacks, but like just being able to run around and hack and slash or, you know, punch and kick as different characters, feeling them out like that, it's so cool.
Yeah. I'm really, like I said, I'm excited for the new game to play as additional characters, but I think my favorite, let me see, how many characters they give you? Do they give you 4 or 5 in this one?
So you get Cloud, Barrett, Tifa,
And Eric, right?
and Eric. Yeah.
Huh.
Which
Yeah, that's not
I mean,
too many, but I mean, it works though.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing how the different characters play in this, there's characters I'm so much more excited to play as they continue. You know,
Vincent,
There's
you know?
yes, yes.
Everybody, they're like,
Oh yes, dude. It'd be
character
so
ever.
cool. Do you hear who's voicing him?
Remind me, I did see it, but I can't remember.
I'm not really I don't know a whole lot about it, but it's cool for the novelty. Matt Mercer, the guy that leads the Critical Role. He's
Oh,
the
okay,
DM
yeah.
for Critical Role.
That's pretty awesome. I bet he's
He's got a
pumped.
good voice. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know he is.
Yeah.
It seems like a good fit. I'm excited.
There goes another. Now's our chance to do some real damage.
Yeah, you know, that's something back to Final Fantasy 16. That's something I really loved about the voice actor they got. I don't know if you've seen the stuff from, I can't remember his name, but he's a huge Final Fantasy fan. Like, he knows all kinds of trivia and stuff. I'm sorry?
The voice
Oh,
for
the
who?
gentleman. Sorry, the gentleman played Clive, the main character.
Oh.
Yeah, he's a huge Final Fantasy fan. There's like all these interviews and stuff with him, and he wasn't even auditioning for the role of Clive, but he was doing like some NPC supporting voice role, and then they heard him or something. It was like, oh, this would be perfect for the American version or whatever, or the English version, I should say. Hey, you beat him,
Yeah, finally.
didn't he?
Yeah.
All right, you got
Kind of.
20 minutes to get out of here. Good luck.
Yeah, you need 30, so
Yeah, you
probably
definitely
good,
need
man.
at least 30 minutes to get out of here.
You hear that? Damn thing showed you how it's done.
Come on.
From what I've seen so far, 20 seemed like it was more of a Cloud's personality.
Oh yeah. I was like, what's he talking? I'm playing. I'm about halfway through this right now on my second playthrough, and I've got the Japanese voices on, but I think I'll play the new one with English.
Concentrate.
Do you know, like, so, I don't remember who told me, but I know, like, 16 was written, or I might have read it, but, like, all the dialogue was written in English and translated. Do you know if that's like, and it was, you know, kind of the first of its kind, that's why its dialogue is so much better and detailed for us.
Yeah.
Do you know if is 7 originally in Japanese and then it's translated over to English, or do you know how they did the remake?
Yeah, that's a good question. No, I didn't. Well, first of all, I didn't know that about 16, but it makes sense because I thought, you know, this dialogue for like all the lip syncing and stuff seemed to be to the English voices rather than the Japanese. So that's pretty cool. I didn't realize that, but it makes sense. But no, I don't know how they're doing it for 7. I want to say though that at least for this one that we're playing right now, is if you look at the characters' mouths, I want to say that it's synced to the Japanese.
My hero.
As far as the new one that's coming out, I have no idea. But you know, I'm good with either. I just think it's interesting.
Come this way.
I would typically play anything on English anyways, just so I could. It's easier for me to get through it, and I just adapt to it better that way. But
The only thing I've done
usually
anything like
it's a
that with
second
was
playthrough.
I did that with Horizon Zero Dawn. I think I might have played it in like Scandinavian or something,
Yeah.
just because it kind of like fit the image more.
Cool.
But that was actually a recommendation by Noah, I think.
Let's go, let's go, let's go.
The Scandinavian.
Yeah.
so that sounds cool. Make it feel more immersive to like how it should, I guess.
Yeah, I saw that the new Prince of Persia game has you can play it in Persian, which I thought was
Sorry,
I saw that as a
Justified.
demo, and
it's pretty good.
I don't know a whole lot about those. I think I've only actually played one of them. It was one of the 360 ones.
Yeah, I liked that series, but I'm not gonna spend 50 to 60 bucks on a Metroidvania, like,
Yeah.
because you know, plus Ubisoft games, they're like on sale the week after they come out. It's ridiculous. I got that Avatar game, and then it was on sale like 30 bucks off like a week later. I was like, why did I do this to myself?
A lot of people playing that though.
The Avatar game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
A few group of people that are into it. Noah's playing it right now too.
That was one of those games where like I'd heard about it a long time ago, and it felt like the release just kind of like snuck up on everybody because it wasn't promoted all that well.
It definitely wasn't. I feel like I heard about it a week before it came out. And I've heard a lot about it since, I guess, but when I look at gameplay, like nothing really stands out too much to me about it, I guess for myself. And I wasn't really into those movies. But I mean, it seems
definitely-
neat. I'm sure it's a cool universe to play in.
I was definitely late to the party with those movies because I never saw it in theaters initially. So I just never bought into the hype.
I'm a
Face
pretty big
tanking,
fan of the
bro.
movies. Nice. So Brandon, what's your relationship with Final Fantasy?
You missed a chest. I don't know if you want it. It's back at the bottom of the steps.
Yeah, I saw that. I probably have to skip it.
Yeah, you're good.
So as far as my
You do
intro,
have plenty of time to get out of here. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you do have. We were joking about it taking 30 minutes to get out. Like you can. It might take you 10, but not that bad.
That's so funny. I didn't even think about following up on that. I
Ran
was just
past
like, yeah,
it.
30,
Ran past
30
yeah,
days.
I thought you
I'm
were
not
being
having to get
serious.
that chest. No, I'm too far.
Nah, man, you said 30 minutes. Oh yeah, and if you die, you gotta play all over from the very beginning of the game too. Hitting.
Yeah,
Kidding,
Iron
kidding.
Skull is always on.
I've played enough games to where I know that that's always a possibility.
So is that part of you? It's just like, they're gonna screw me over really bad on this.
Oh, there's a few parts like that in Kingdom Hearts where I'm just like,
Oh yeah.
I really got to go all the way back through this whole section.
No.
Once upon a time, there was no skip scene.
Oh yeah, I could imagine. I could imagine that. So anyways, back like as far as like my intro, Kingdom Hearts was probably what little intro I did have. I'd never owned those games initially, just because I got a PS2 so late in the cycle. and I never, like I said, never finished it until this past weekend.
But you got no
Yeah,
ATV.
switch to Barrett Hill Cloud. There you go. Wow, that's all he's giving him.
Those effing turrets up above.
You got Phoenix down on him if you need. You end up needing it.
What's that do?
Heals a fallen party member. I think you have to put it on first in this game, though. Is that right? You have to have a Phoenix down, like activated. I can't remember. It puts a little feather over you, and then your next death you will heal automatically from it, or is it?
I don't remember that. No,
Having
you can
trouble.
use them. I'm not sure which one that is. That sounds familiar to one of the games, but no, I believe you can use Phoenix down
No time to celebrate.
Like
after
a party member goes down. Okay.
Yeah, there is some. I think there is an ability called Auto Life, though, that may be in this game that does something like that, revives you. You cast it before you die, and then it revives you automatically. But I'm not sure I ever unlocked that spell.
Yeah, you said Kingdom Hearts is like your main intro.
Yeah, so with that, like I said, I never owned it initially. I only played it when I was at a cousin's house. And outside of that, I'd like vaguely heard of Final Fantasy, but it wasn't until probably like 2010, 2011 when I was working my first job. I worked with this older guy named Michael that played those games a lot. At the time, I remember him telling me like his favorite character was Squall. But
Come on.
around that time, I guess it was a little intimidating because the barrier to entry seemed high because I didn't know how the games were connected or if they were at all. So yeah, I never really tried to get into anything. And it wasn't until around, I guess right before 15 came out, that a friend of mine was hanging out with a guy that was following it all the way like through the beta and everything. And we would just joke around with him about it being bad. This is like just purely in jest, like before it came out. And I guess it wasn't long after that, maybe a year or so, that Bryson and I started dating. And I remember she wanted to play it on Xbox, so we got it. Like I said, I played it for like an hour or so. And I didn't really get into it at the time. And then I guess probably about a year ago, or no, then I played the demo for this at your house, Barrett, and I really liked the combat of it. But I can't remember why I never got it.
I remember
that
having a
time.
conversation with you about it because you've had that like how long to beat. You've talked
Yeah,
to me
yeah,
about that a
that's-
lot.
That's
You've talked
definitely
to me
a
like you
factor.
got a list of games that like you organize like what you want to play. I think around that time you were playing Uncharted. You were playing through the Uncharted series or playing through like maybe Tomb Raider. Maybe it's Tomb Raider, the
Yeah,
Tomb Raider
probably
games.
probably was.
But I remember you talking about like, you know, it's on your list of what you want to play, but there's just so much like that you want to get to. But eventually, I'm glad we're getting to it like this because I forgot that like we had whenever my game room was where our bedroom is now, we'd sat in there and played the demo for this because I know I was hyping it up like a motherfucker. Like we've waited forever for this.
Yeah, it's the
Finally
second coming.
happening.
I remember.
Yeah,
I mean,
dude.
It really is.
just being the demo, I was pretty hooked. But yeah, part of that, yeah, was the playtime that I just never got into. because I was always playing something else. And
Damn, what is that? I've never seen
Why the
I'm
options
glad
not?
glad I
That
got
should have
to it.
happened smoother. There.
Yeah,
me. Gotta do
I'm glad I got into
Yeah,
it
dude.
now though. I want to say it's probably about a year ago that a lot of the a lot of the games got put on Game Pass, and I remember trying out. I think it was 13. Whatever the opening mission was, you're like on the train rail, and
Yeah.
keep on coming.
yeah. And for whatever reason, didn't like the loop of the game loop of that, so I don't remember playing more than like 2 or 3 hours.
We can figure that out later.
But I've always, from what I've seen, I've always liked the characters. I just
Next time
never took the time to get fully invested in it.
Yeah,
So
the
what are
art style
your?
of Final Fantasy has been super compelling. Just
Mhm.
since they, since they chose that artistic direction, you can just like see a character and be like, man, they look cool. What are they
Stand
about?
back then. I'll set the bomb.
Dude, I just thought of this, like the summons. The summons are such a big part of the series, and they've always been such a cool hook that kind of got me interested. And that's actually first time I'd ever heard of Odin as like a god or character or anything, and then found out later that oh, it's this Norse god. And that was before, like, of course, the Thor movies and all that ever happened. But yeah, so many cool
Oh,
characters, so many cool summons, and getting to see them reinvented over the years is just awesome.
yeah, the different interpretations of them and stuff.
Yeah, and they already showed a couple of the new summons for the next game, but they're just visually, they're just amazing. So, Brandon, what are your impressions so far? And maybe you've played through all this already, but like,
No, this is first time, but I'm I'm liking it and looking forward to finishing it.
Like story direction, you kind of see where like you're working with like a uh, basically what's considered a terrorist group,
Yeah,
and you're helping them do it do what they think is like righting the wrongs of this big evil corporation.
yeah,
This couldn't have been us.
which is somewhat familiar
What if it was?
with Cyberpunk. Got a similar tone to it with Johnny Silverhands.
It ain't pretty, but we can't stop
what's
now.
cool is like, I don't know if this.
First reaction.
I've heard a lot of people refer to Final Fantasy VII as a cyberpunk universe. I mean, to me, it's more of like a
We always knew
industrial punk or some a steampunk or something like that. But it's pretty cool because the story like holds up pretty well,
Nothing worth
even by
fighting for
today's
will go
standards.
on
Like you
without
still get it,
sacrifice.
like the whole deforestation and
May not be crying out,
you know
I know you're
these
in pain,
toxic
just
chemical
like
plants
the
and stuff.
But it's okay, cause I'm here for you to help take the load off your shoulders.
Like, I mean, I'm playing through 16, and it's a similar. You're going around destroying Mako reactors in it too, pretty much with the mother
Yeah.
crystals. Like, it's definitely a rolling theme.
Whatever
Yeah.
the problem, I got
That's a
you.
good point.
So, what's our next move, boss?
That's easy enough.
I will say
I had to
though,
get some water.
This is home.
Be right back, guys.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say with this being essentially my first game that, as far as much as I've played it so far, it's one that I see myself finishing. And as well polished as this game is, outside of like moving on to 16 next,
Shoot for the
I,
last train home.
I don't know that I can or that I should
Later then.
move backwards to any of the other games. What are your thoughts on that? And we can get Nick's. when he gets back.
I'd like my money now.
You can
I mean, I'm obviously gonna say this part. I think that if you play through this game and you really like it, I'm obviously gonna throw Crisis Core up there. You gotta play it if you want to add more to this. As far as what you play next, I mean, this is gonna spoil you on gameplay.
Tell you what this is.
Kind of like, I mean, once you go from Kingdom Hearts 1 to Kingdom Hearts 2, you're like, ooh, I don't know if I'll ever go back.
Yeah.
Just because like certain the evolution of gameplay mechanics just gets more comfortable and more user friendly.
I'm lucky you were
So like going back to something, because I would recommend 10 just because I really liked 10. I really liked the story of 10. But on gameplay wise, like, I mean, it's got certain points, like you can get to a certain point to where you're literally fucking stuck at a boss and there's nothing you can do about it because you didn't level up in the last open area enough. You can get stuck and to completely fuck you. So it's like, my heart wants to say after this you should play 10, but honestly I think after this, if you're still feeling it, you should just go to play 16. Just move to 16 because that game is, I mean, flawless is a very, I don't know if it's just super smoothed out and definitely the peak of Square Enix's, like, it's fresh. It's not, they're not making a new game under the Final Fantasy VII headline. Like, it's a whole new thing, and it's actually one that like stands up again on its own. Like, it doesn't need, I don't know. I would say go to 16 next if you didn't want to stay in this story realm. Because like with this, there's Advent Children. The most accessible are going to be Advent Children and Crisis Core. So you could watch the movie. And it plays after. It takes place. Where does that take place? Does that take place in the middle of this?
What movie? What? Advent Children takes place after the entire.
Yeah. Sephiroth. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's other, I don't know, the other ones you could just look up what the story did, I guess, as far as like Dirge of Cerberus, but it didn't really add too much. Just,
I never played Dirge.
It's a fond memory, but I don't remember a whole lot about it. I just remember it being kind of like an early action shooter, like Final Fantasy style, and it just kind of felt awkward. But
yeah, Square has made
fun,
a lot,
especially if you like that character. Yeah.
Station's intact.
Yeah, I know how hard it can be going back to older stuff, especially when you play more polished stuff like this. And even there were moments playing through Kingdom Hearts where it was like, all right, if it wasn't for like me specifically wanting to finish this, I probably would already been out. But I do like that story so much that it's hard to. It definitely was a decision I had to make to keep going, but I'm glad I did.
I want to know what part of the game made you feel like that. This is a really cool scene, so I don't want to like take away too much. This is the moment. But yeah, like what part of Kingdom Hearts gave you the like, okay, what am I doing?
I mean, a lot of it I think was just some of the platforming. I don't know if there's like a specific point that I could.
Alice in Wonderland, jumping on the mushrooms.
Trying to figure out which potion to drink.
Yeah, which fucking way to go in Alice in Wonderland's world. Good God.
Yeah, that was a little frustrating. I
think I get that over in the beginning.
I think I might have told you the other day, but like some of it was like just where the cameras also set up, because I remember the Oogie Boogie fight being a little frustrating, the first part, because I don't know if it was due to the way I was like locked on or what it was, but I couldn't even see where he was at on the top section. So I never knew like which areas to pull up the fence on.
Yeah.
And then the second part of that fight, and then later on at the Hallow Bastion, where you would just fall off the side of, of the
You
platform
go back
and
down
have
to
to go
the-
all the way through the whole
Yes.
castle.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I had some meltdowns.
Dude. Mm-hmm.
I guess I've played it so many times now that like, okay, so all these parts and frustrations you're talking about, I definitely remember them. But like now, if like I go and play it, there's like a robotic accuracy to those parts to where, like, and I've played it so many times since I had those frustrations that I wouldn't have even thought of them unless you mentioned them right now. So, but I get it. The first game is not particularly well designed, not by today's standards at all. But to me, it still has a ton of charm and sentimentality, and there's still a lot of cool stuff in it.
Okay, Bryson just commented here in the chat and reminded me of a few spots. But yeah, the hippos and Tarzan
Yes.
area.
Their hitbox is so much smaller than like to land on is so much smaller than it looks. Like you got to land on them just fucking right, or you're swimming
Well,
all the way back.
Not only that, there's one section where you got to go up to the tree house, and you can go up the vines at like the very beginning, or if you go up the vines at the very end, like if you jump over all the hippos, that's the only way to get the cutscene with Kerchak. Or like there's like one specific cutscene, that's the only path to get there. And yeah, you've got like there's one of those, that very last hippo, you've got to be standing in the right spot in order for your jump to be able to make it across.
Yeah.
And then the
You
other
said for check, and it made me just get PTSD in my brain about one of the cutscenes.
I was thinking it too. Oh, that chameleon. Oh my god. Yeah.
I actually
Oh
didn't
my
have
God.
any problem with it at all. Like I don't even remember taking much damage from it, if at all.
Well, you were level
I
like
don't know if
500.
I don't know if it got stuck in one spot and like got stunned or something, but like yeah, I don't even remember it moving that much.
Hmm.
Yeah, I have trauma from that fucking chameleon.
I remember those little beams he shoot out that home in on you, hitting
Yeah.
me as that potion's in the air, dude. Just knocking me in the back,
Seeing things. Fumes
just
full.
raging. I'm pretty sure I made some really bad squealing screams
You got this.
when I played PS2.
And then the other
Gosh.
thing she mentioned was like the fight with Ursula, and you've got to shoot
Mm.
either the fire, the blizzard spell, at her cauldron. There's
Yeah.
it doesn't really do a good job of explaining like what you have to do there. And then even with like the like a walkthrough that I'd looked up, it's like you've got to wait until like it flashes either blue or red. But even in that, it doesn't say that it's like the light around the cauldron, not exactly the fluid that's inside of it.
Yeah.
And
I
it just,
didn't.
even when you're like shooting spells at it, like if you're too
Doesn't work
far,
half time.
if you're too close to it, like the spell will never hit.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
hit the side, not work.
And then there's like there were a few times where like it just didn't feel like there was any feedback to like anything I was doing that was working. So yeah, just stuff
It's
like
the
that.
moment you gotta wait a whole cycle for it to come back just to do that damage to her.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kanan she most recently, I remember watching her play that part. That was one of the parts I was sitting in on, and I didn't remember having that much trouble with it, but I remember like she was struggling with it, and I couldn't even like the mechanics of that fight are like I guess the most unfamiliar to me in that game. Like it's not like a notable moment looking back on the game. So when I was watching it, I was like trying to tell her like you got to hit the cauldron so you can do damage, and I remember like trying to help her through that boss fight. But that is a weird mechanic. It doesn't set you up for it. Doesn't really explain anything. You just got to kind of be like, wait, am I supposed to do that? And then you got to like actually like be further back from it, and even sometimes kind of like jump up and then cast your spell at it so you can like hit in the cauldron. Yeah, not a fun fight.
Yeah. That whole Little Mermaid world was just kind of ass, like the swimming mechanic and stuff. Yeah. Yeah, it's just so awkward to control. And then, but yeah, I remember that cauldron. And like you said, the great point, there's just no feedback. Like sometimes you shoot a fire spell at it and it's like, oh, it turned orange. The rest of the time you're like, is this doing anything? And then you run out of magic and you're like, okay, now what do I do? You know?
And like I said, I found out that some of that was just because of like how close you were standing to it, like the spell wouldn't connect.
You are too weak.
Either way,
Bad for
it can be
interrupting
pretty-
Cloud's whole
Oh,
hallucination scene. Where he's like,
Are you okay?
so I guess it's not gonna tell you in this game, but like it's good to know like Cloud, that stuff that
I'm fine.
the stuff that all those reactors use is called Mako, and it's what people use to like, it's what like Cloud is enhanced by it.
Yeah.
Um,
A flower?
it's what like Shinra kind of does projects. Their scientists work projects on all their like main soldiers and like basically powers them up through Mako. And Cloud has recently gone through like a Mako overdose. Like he OD'd like a motherfucker on the shit. And he is going through a lot of the side effects in like his life after that. So that's kind of like why he's still seeing Sephiroth, believes Sephiroth to be dead. He was just having a flashback of his hometown being burned down by Sephiroth.
Yeah.
I'm involved in things.
So like a lot of he has like trauma that basically it happens at the end of Crisis Core, but sets up like how he's a little off in the beginning of this game. And he built his character back over time, but
Relax. No one's going to attack you. I promise.
she's just a flower peddler.
Hey, a Mako reactor just blew.
It's a living.
You shouldn't be out here trying to sell.
Oh no.
Help me.
Now this,
The Dementors.
yeah, these things were not in the original game, so just to know, Chris.
Yeah. I was gonna
Something-
mention that. This is
Yeah, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No, I just
No, you
it
can-
is. I about started to mention it too, but it is a weird thing to like that they added in to, I guess, give Aerith more depth as an ancient or as what she is.
Mm,
I didn't know how to feel about it when I first played it, but after beating this first part of Final Fantasy VII, I remember being like, okay, I'm game for some of these changes if it's going to add more story. You know, it's nice to not retell the same thing.
yeah. Well, I think they mention what those things could be or might be later in the game. And I thought they mentioned something about, and this is totally probably gonna butcher it, but I thought they mentioned something about them being like the spirits of a death from a possible future. And what I took that as is it was referencing a potential future of like the original game, and that things are happening to influence the way the story went, to make it makes it different than the original game. But maybe I made all that up or read it on a Reddit forum. I'm not sure.
That sounds familiar. I forgot about excuse me, this game being treated as almost like a possible different reality from the original.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't
To
remember
me,
too
at
much about
least-
that though, but I do remember something about that.
Yeah, well, and the fact that he sees these glimpses, I think, later of things that happen, I think, in the original game. But you know, I'm not sure, and we'll see. We'll find out more with the next game. They didn't do too much, but obviously there's like some boss fights and stuff that like never happened in the original game.
Yeah.
And some of that could just be, you know, it's a remake, right? But I think part of it is that there's like some kind of something happening that's influencing the events of the game that make it different than the original. What did you get, a potion?
That bastard couldn't have gotten far.
Yeah, that's one thing is, man, half the time you open those chests, it's nothing
Yeah.
great, but you gotta get them. It's like, you absolutely have to.
Have you played the New Game Plus of this, Nick?
No, I made the decision just to start an entirely new game from scratch for some reason.
I did too.
And now I'm wondering like why I did it that way, because now I gotta beat it again this time, and then do a New Game Plus with this save. But I think I wanted to have like all the summons and stuff going into it, and I didn't want to go back to the chapter select, you know. So yeah, I will say the chapter select did not make a whole lot of sense to me, like how to navigate it. I'm like, so wait, how much progress am I taking back to this chapter, and like what point in the story? I just didn't, for some reason that was too convoluted of a thing to think through for me.
Yeah, it seems too good to be true that you could just play this game in segments and like just go and play a segment and complete everything within that segment, and then go back to the main menu and do it with another segment.
Yeah. I
don't know
mean,
if that's how that works. Because I never
read
too much with it.
Yeah, from what I read, like, that is potentially how it works, or how some people felt it worked. But I don't know. It just seems like there's too many little milestones in the story and too many abilities and paths you unlock and stuff. And I was like, okay, what happens if I want to get to like this one part halfway through the chapter? Like, I don't want to go play the chapter again. I'd rather just start. Like, I don't want to play through 2 hours of the chapter, you know, to do that. So I think what my plan is to play through it, get everything, try not to miss any of the stuff that I might have missed the first time, then at some point do a New Game Plus. But that'll probably be like a year from now, after I've played the heck out of the remake and stuff. I doubt all that will happen before the new one comes out. I'll be happy if I can just get through the, you know, the playthrough I'm on with the stuff I want. So, Final Fantasy XII. So I'll talk more about that. That's actually my favorite Final Fantasy. In close competition probably was 16, and I think the reason 16 is like surprising one of my favorites is it has a lot of things like graphically and character wise that really reminded me of 12, especially like Clive and stuff. Clive reminded me a lot of Balthier from Final Fantasy 12. But anyway,
the airships make me think of it. I'm sorry, I mean, I was gonna like just a comment. The airships, the fallen airships, make me think of it like Final Fantasy 12 taking place in the past, and this is in a far future.
That's a pretty cool idea. I didn't even think of that. I did think like some of the designs of the world reminded me of 12. But that's a great point. But that 12 to me, so first of all, 12 takes place in the same, and Brandon, this is where it gets really convoluted. Like, we talk about all the games, all the Final Fantasies numbered ones, pretty much take place in their own universe, right? New characters, new world and stuff. And the only thing that's similar most of the time is like the spells, the summons,
names,
some of the weapons, yeah, you know, really vague stuff that's not critical to understanding what's happening. You're gonna get walked through it. But then of course there are direct sequels to some of the games like Final Fantasy X-2 and stuff. But anyway, what I was gonna say about 12, that being said, is Final Fantasy 12, it takes place in the same world as Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced did. It takes place in Ivalice. And that has like certain races and stuff, like these rabbit people and different stuff and different summons and stuff. So what was really cool is I loved Final Fantasy Tactics on Game Boy Advance. It was an awesome game. And so when 12 came out, it was in that same world as the Tactics game, I was super pumped to see that in like 3D, like with quote unquote state-of-the-art graphics and, you know, all this cool stuff that I was like, oh man, it's gonna be awesome seeing, you know, those enemies. And it had like the same musician and stuff, so it just felt so familiar. But it was almost like getting a remake of a world that had been really you know, not as realized. So anyway, I was pumped about that. Then I got it. I think it was what I got. It was like the only thing I got for like my 11th birthday or something. So all I wanted was that game for PS2, and I got it. And I think I played it for 4 or 5 hours, and I got to this one point where I won't get into too much detail, but there's like these things like eating the electricity of some underground area, and if they consume the electricity like a meter, if they consume too much electricity before you get to them and kill them, then all these undead enemies come out, and it basically makes it impossible, at least to 11-year-old me, to like get through that part. So I like would stop playing, and I was like, okay, I don't know how to beat this. So then I'd start a whole new game, and got to that point, and then it happened again. And I was like, oh my god, I'm not strong enough. There's like no way to grind now, and this is happening too quick, and I can't kill these enemies. So it was like another like 2 years, I think. And then eventually I tried it, and I got to that one part, and then like the whole game opened up to me, and I thought it was just amazing. Like the all the spells and the battle system and the characters, the story, I loved it all. What's funny is I never beat it until like 2 years ago. 2 or 3 years ago, I realized like, oh, I got really far in this, but it was just got too monotonous. And then they added the HD versions, right? You can speed up the gameplay, you can skip cutscenes, all kinds of different stuff. So I was like, okay. So I played it and finally beat it after like literally 20 years in the process of playing it. So, but yeah, that's my favorite. I just love the settings and the way you level up and the characters and all that. So,
how did you feel about it in between the time where you'd gotten stuck on it and beat it? Like, did you feel strongly about, like, did you really like it and be like, man, that's just a game I really have to beat? Or like, was it just something?
Yeah, I mean, it's just weird because like, the internet wasn't as much of a thing. So like now you can just go online and be like, how do I beat this part? Or like, what am I not doing right? You can watch someone let's play it. At the time, that just wasn't an option. So I just thought, I'm just not good enough at these games, and I did something wrong, like I missed some critical part of making my character stronger. So yeah, I thought it was awesome and loved it, and I wanted to play it, but I was frustrated that I couldn't figure it out, and there was no one who could help me, right? So I was just like, nah, But yeah, so like at that moment before I got back to it and just powered through, like forced myself to figure out how to beat it, I didn't have much feelings on it. I was like, well, this looks really cool. I wish I got to experience the other 97% of the game, that's waiting for me. But yeah, once I got back to it and got in, then I was like, oh, this is freaking awesome. The world's awesome. It's big open areas and hunts, and there's the ton voice acting and all that, and tons of awesome cutscenes. Everything I loved about Final Fantasy. There's like 12 summons in the game. There's a lot of summons and stuff. But yeah. I hope that answers your question.
It for me, I'm just like, I'm weighing, like, it's definitely a game that I feel like definitely deserves a retry, because I have not tried to replay that game. It's like I vaguely remember the combat system being like, it's like the first Final Fantasy where you could like run around while you're waiting to be able to attack. You had like that meter that would fill back up, kind of like you have the active the ATB thing, like you've got like a time that you've got to wait up.
Yeah.
And but I don't remember what made me stop playing it, or what made me not like it. I just probably got stuck on a stupid part and was like, fuck this, I'm going back to play Kingdom Hearts 2. That shit's actually fun.
No, straight up though, like you're right though, it was, looking back, it was work to learn how to play it. Like it was work to understand like the license for it. I was like, wait. Yeah, I was like, you have to, it took me years, like literally years to understand, okay, you have to unlock the ability on the license board. Then you have to go buy the ability from a shop. And then don't even get me started on the Gambit system. And Brandon, I actually feel like you would like this. The Gambit system was super cool and complex. Basically, you could do a series of commands for your characters with ranking priority that then you could set a situation for when they would use that. So you could do like, hey, they're going to cast Karuga on the whole party when someone's health is down to 30%, right? Or you could have, hey, they're going to cast lightning on this enemy if they're weak to it, right? So you could essentially program your party, and it was like really complex, but it was a tremendous amount of work to understand. And so many times I was just like, I don't The only reason I ever figured it out was like because I was freaking homeschooled and had nothing else to do. Like, I was like, I got like if I don't play this, then what am I gonna play? So I'm glad I figured it out and like powered through it. But there's so many games nowadays where I'm like, I'm not gonna screw with how much work this is. Like Baldur's Gate. Like the only reason I've even picked that back up is because I've got Brandy telling me how to play it. But like that's another example of a game where I'm just like it's so much work to figure out how to play it that I'm just not interested. So, yeah.
Yeah, that kills me on a lot of different games, and mostly like you've mentioned a lot of tactics games that my friends Lucas and Noah are heavily into Divinity 2 Original Sin, and I've tried to play that with them, but those games just make me feel dumb. I feel like I'm doing math problems while I'm trying to have a good time. And it's just not how.
Yeah, I get it.
Just not fun to me. Like I mentioned South Park Fractured Butthole earlier, and that one, like, I don't know, that one had the humor of South Park to save it and give me patience to want to learn how to play it. But it didn't make me want to play any other game like it, or that came before it.
Yeah, I get it. There's just certain games though that like cause me to have patience because there's something I like that much about them. Like Elden Ring and stuff. Those games are one of those things where I'm so interested to see the bosses and the design of the art that like I'm like I can't miss out on this. I got to figure out how to play this. But sometimes that takes like a year for me to put a game down and pick it back up. That was kind of true for the Final Fantasy VII Remake. The one we're playing right now is some of it was like there's so many little systems and stuff that I wasn't ready for getting into all of it when I picked it back up. But
I didn't go play straight through this game. As much as I was excited for it, I didn't play straight through it whenever it came out. I played probably like 15 hours into the game. Because this game is long. Like, for it to be broken up into parts, it amazes me how long they made this chunk of the game. And I thought I've probably put it down for like an embarrassing amount of time, probably like 6 to 8 months, dude. I didn't touch it for a while, and then I picked it back up and started right where I was, thinking like, I'm gonna beat this today. I know I'm close to the end. I've done that thing that I do with games where I just get this end of the game anxiety.
yeah,
An anxiety for completing things. And I picked it up and still had like 20 plus hours to go. And I did muscle through all that. Like I did as much as I could of the side quest before I was like, okay, I'm just not gonna. Because this was a game I wanted to do everything in, and I think that I was pacing myself too much, and I wanted to pick it back up and just let me just get through it. And I mean, it took me longer than I thought. I was way further from the end of it than I expected to be. But I mean, even for this game to be cut up into parts, this felt. I mean, it doesn't end. It ends making you want more, for sure. But I don't know. I'm really glad that they've made it so big. And I think, Nick, you were talking about last time, they're actually putting the second part of this game on 3 discs. In this day and age, like, and how big this is on 1 disc.
yeah.
And that's just going to be the middle part of the game. And it's on 3 discs.
It's gonna be big.
What the actual fuck? Like, the download's going to be bigger than Red Dead. And freaking Star Wars Battlefront 2, like huge games that take up hundreds of gigs. How big is this going to be as a digital download?
Let me see. Actually, I'm gonna see if I can. I doubt it says
you
it, but
pre-ordered it.
yeah, I want to see. I don't think it shows it yet, but that's a great point.
Have
I'm
a day
betting.
1 update that gives it all that,
Yeah, I'm betting. To your point, it'll be no less than like 130 gigabytes.
Yeah.
And that's being modest, I think.
Part 3 is going to end up having some sort of multiplayer aspect or something to it. Like, how are they going to step
Dude.
up from this?
Well, and I think part 3, I don't even know if it'll come out on PlayStation 5. I think it'll be a cross-gen game built mainly for PS6.
It better be on the PlayStation 5, or everything should be updated to be on one console, because you can't have one complete story split up across multiple consoles like that.
That's
Especially
it.
something like 7.
Well, but Remake was on PlayStation 4. This
And then
was
they
on
updated it to
PS4.
5.
I'm a soldier.
So we've got the PS5 version of it now. So as long as they do treat it the same, is it
But the
so does that
second,
mean a game that started up like Final Fantasy VII started on PlayStation 4, now it's upgraded to PlayStation 5 so you could play it on this console. So as long as they continue that trend and do it with 7 parts 1 and 2, and they've got some big collection or something on the PS6, because that, like, you're probably right, it is going to be about that time. And it's just got to, I want it all together somewhere.
but the Rebirth won't be on PS4, right? That's okay with you? Like, I mean, it's okay with you because you have a PS5, but people who played this that Brandon's playing on PS4 won't get to experience the rest of the story until they get a PS5, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, they've already kind of started that though, didn't they? I mean, I know this is my first time playing it, but I think that was the whole Intergrade update. Like
Yeah, you had
that
to have a
first part of
PlayStation
the
5 to have Intergrade.
Yeah, that first part of the DLC or whatever, you couldn't, like, you had to have PS5.
Yeah, you're right.
Regardless, it's a big game. It's also like how many cutscenes obviously are like this we're watching right now, where it's like this takes a ton of time to animate, and like the number of cutscenes they have like this that are like CG movie quality more or less is incredible. But the next game, I was just trying to think, the next game covers a lot of stuff, right? If it's disc 2.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And what's interesting is, like, I'm trying to remember everything that happens on that third disc, but that's just going to kind of be this. It's going to be a lot of boss battles, is what I'm remembering.
Imagine that coming out as a standalone game. The end of this series is going to come out as a standalone game. It's going to be balls to the wall from the moment you pick it up.
When do you get the airship? Was it second or third disc?
I want to say it was in second.
Oh, by the way, back to the file size. It's not showing yet on PSN. It's just saying estimated download is the 27th of next month. And there's a countdown.
If it helps, think of it as an initiation rite.
How many times do I have to tell you people? I'm not.
Yeah, disc 2.
Is playing too hard to get.
Got you.
So, here we've got a wireframe model of the great city of Midgar.
I was telling Brandy and the kids about the Golden Saucer. And I was reading an interview about that part of the remake, and they're saying that their hope is that people will spend like 10 hours or something at that part of the game. Which makes sense, because if it's stretched out more or less in the same way that this one disc was, then it makes sense that you could spend a lot of time at the Golden Saucer running around that theme park.
Oh yeah, that's gonna look good.
Yeah,
It's
it's
really cool.
amazing. Also, I don't believe in console war or anything like that, but I like that they got it to be an exclusive for PlayStation.
Is it gonna be timed like this was?
Well, yeah, only in the sense of it'll come out on PC eventually, but this still isn't out on any other console. It's not on Xbox. And my understanding is it's not gonna release on Xbox.
It's at home. It's at home
well,
here.
exactly. You know? It just feels right on PlayStation.
I remember feeling weird about Kingdom Hearts being like put out on everything and being like, I mean, yeah, I like the accessibility of this, but like you start taking things away from their home, like Crash Bandicoot and like all the things that PlayStation had that was theirs. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, they were
But I mean,
stupid to sell
even
that.
like BioShock was Xboxes at one point, and that's kind of weird to think about. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
that was
I agree. Like,
short-lived though.
yeah, console wars are silly, but they're still. I like some friendly competition there. You know.
Yeah, well, I like the competition, and also like here's the thing: like we've got Xbox as well. I still like the idea of there being like a certain experience in certain titles that are part of Xbox and certain titles that are part of PlayStation because you get a different experience. If it's just a matter of, oh, it's all the same games, but hey, where do I want to what machine do I want to play them on? That's kind of takes away some of the charm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've like mentally had myself in a place where I play most of my third person RPGs with like on PlayStation, and then I'll play first person games on Xbox. But I try not to limit myself too much. So, and I've never really bought into the console war aspect just because I've always owned everything for the most part at one point or another. And
Hmm.
but I will say like Kingdom Hearts initially because when I first tried to play it the last time was on Xbox, and it did feel weird after like playing it on PlayStation as a kid. Um, but I was really excited for it to come to the Switch. I felt like it would have lent itself well to the Switch, and then they decided
And then
to
they.
make it all cloud, and it's
Oh,
such a bad
it's
decision on that,
yeah,
Such a bad decision.
100%.
especially with a game
So
that's already like combat can be kind of clunky at times, and to put like any kind of lag in that, just I don't know how anybody would enjoy that.
100% agree. I hate that they did that. Like I was so excited when they announced that for Switch, and then like 2 seconds later, it's like cloud version. And you're just like, you couldn't do a native port of a PS2 game. Like
Yeah.
like I was like, ugh,
What did
you
they
know,
say? I mean, they could have just done like a digital port and not had a physical copy and still saved all the money they needed to save on physical property.
I'm sure the
would have
Why didn't
still
they
exclusive.
just
cost them
port the
more.
game?
Yeah,
Maybe, yeah, but like just to format it. I don't know
I mean,
what is
who
cloud
knows how
gaming.
much?
I just don't understand what that does. Why it's even
I'm
for something as
sure.
big as Kingdom Hearts. It was definitely a bad move.
I'm sure the argument was that the file size was too large to fit all the games on one cart.
Probably.
Cartridge, and they didn't
But
want to make a
but
cartridge for
you could
everyone else.
easily go buy that. I mean, that's basically the way we play on consoles now, where it's like the key is what's on the cart, and then you download the game essentially.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
well, I mean, for God's sake, they got Witcher 3 on Switch. They've got
exactly,
all the BioShock games on Switch. They've got, it's like
Witcher
they've
3
got a
speaks for
native,
itself. There,
what's
like
that?
the fact that Witcher 3 is not cloud
Oh yeah,
speaks for itself.
it's
yeah,
The game
hilarious.
is
Yeah,
huge.
exactly.
yeah.
They had no excuse. I think they took the easy way out, and I think too, and that's just my opinion though, that like a lot more people in Japan are more comfortable with the idea of streaming. I hear that there's a lot more mobile gameplay and a lot more streaming plays in Japan. So, and I think if that audience was taken care of and they were good with the streaming version, then that's probably what they chose to do. But I don't know. I'm not on board with the whole cloud gaming thing. It's just not.
It's not ready
It's
yet.
not been a good. Yeah, not until we
Not
have like
unless
6G internet.
Yeah.
6G internet, or it
Yeah,
just has its own internet access and doesn't have to be connected to
right,
something. No.
right. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I've played a few games on Game Pass through the cloud like that, and there are some games that lend itself very well, like a turn-based game, like those you could play something like that you could play with no issues. But yeah, I'd say for the majority of games, we're just not there yet until everybody has access to that kind of internet. Just gonna say, as you notice, I've got it paused here. I don't know how the timing is for each of these chapters, but this is like the beginning of chapter 3. Is this something we want to keep going, or how are you guys feeling?
I am probably at a good break point for me personally, but um,
Definitely a chapter. Like if we got the opportunity to stop at a chapter, it's probably a good
yeah.
time to maybe pause the game and can pick back up from the beginning of chapter 3. It's
Yep.
Yeah.
not bad. How many chapters are in this game?
Ballpark of 20. I mean, it's something around 20 chapters, I think. Then there's also the DLC, by the way, which is 2 chapters.
Yeah, I'm loving it so far. So I'm looking forward to finishing it.
18. 18 chapters.
You know, something before we wrap up, something I'll say is, you know, once you get over like all the like hype around Final Fantasy and like everything everybody says about the game, ultimately to me it's just like a super good anime like RPG, right?
Mhm.
Like if you had seen an anime with this story and the characters and the design, it'd be like, oh, this is fantastic. And so like I try to look at it that way because it's easy to like play a lot of games, especially that have like a 20, 30-year history and just be like, yeah, it's pretty good, but you know, I don't know if it's like the greatest game ever made, but yeah, it's an awesome game. And it gets better. That's the thing too, is it just keeps getting better the longer you play it. And then the other games, that's one of the reasons I'm so excited for the next part is because like some epic stuff happens. You just unlock the summons, the gameplay just keeps on getting bigger and bigger and you get more stuff and yeah, it just gets awesome. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So before we close out the stream here, I was just going to ask, what are you guys playing and going forward for the immediate future? I know for me, like I said, I'm gonna be chipping away at this and just like I said, recently finished Kingdom Hearts 1 and going through. I think I've watched all the cinematics and stuff for Chain of Memories because I'm not going to put 30 hours into that bad card game.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
I
Yeah.
started to, and I'm like, okay, this combat was already a little clunky, and now we're going to add cards into this. So it was,
It has
Yeah.
some definitely like if to pick up on much of the story as possible, it has some unmissable stuff you need to know from it as
yeah.
far as like some of the characters that it introduces and stuff.
Oh, I definitely
Um,
like the narrative around it. I mean, I
mhm.
picked up early on that they were playing with his memories, but I just didn't know what angle they were coming at, and so I did enjoy the story. Um, but yeah, I never played, obviously never played the game on GBA, but I could imagine it might have lent itself a little better to that, but it was just the combat was too similar to the original game where it's like we don't really need to add anything to this, especially not
With a
a card
D-pad.
game. Yeah, especially not a card game where it itself wasn't. I don't think was fully fleshed out from the couple hours I did play of it. Um, but yeah, I watched all the cinematics from that, and also started I don't know exactly how you say it, but the 358 over 2 days.
Yep.
I'm probably like a third of that watching through those chapters. So outside of this, I'll probably finish that up soon and start on Kingdom Hearts 2. But with that said, what are you guys working on playing in the immediate future?
I'll go. Right now, I'm still trying to power through Final Fantasy 16. I've got to beat that game, but I've been trying to take my time, and I don't want to miss anything. But I'm really enjoying the rate that I've been playing at it, and I mean, I know I'm probably like 60 to 70% of the way through it, and I've hit a point where I just unlocked a bunch of side quests, and as soon as that happens, I'm like, oh fuck, okay, all right,
Yeah.
where to start? So, definitely some 16. Um, I don't really need to focus on anything else, but watching you play this is making me want to play this again, like
Mhm.
before part 2 comes out, and I think I could be comfortable skipping a lot of the cutscenes just to try and push myself through this game as fast as possible. But it feels wrong to do that before I finish 16. So I got to find out where my priorities are with that. But and also you're about to start playing Kingdom Hearts 2, and that sounds like a whole lot. I could definitely get down with that too. So right now it's definitely gonna be 16. That's what I've got to focus on. I've got to beat it.
Okay, I'll just go as far as like what I'm planning on playing in the next like 1 to 2 weeks. Because like I have like super bad ADHD with games, and you guys know it's like
I
my
do too. I
only
was trying to control it for that. I'm like,
yeah.
and I also like set myself on a path. Like, this is it. You're gonna do it.
Yeah.
There's probably been about
Yeah.
5 or 6 games in the past week or so that I've thought about starting. So yeah, I've definitely been fighting that myself.
Yeah. Yeah. So this the next like the rest of this week and next week, um Last of Us Part 2 is getting remastered for PS5, which doesn't mean a whole lot, but it'll be like a native version for PS5 with a lot of like the bells and whistles. So if you already own the game digitally, I think it's like $10 to upgrade to it. So that's like
Oh, nice.
a cheap upgrade, and I want to play it again and see what the features are. And like I just like anything that's kind of like built for the PS5 and get to see like the haptics and the 3D audio and stuff. So I'm definitely going to play that some. I doubt I'll play through it. I'll probably come back to it in a couple months or something like that, or a couple weeks, and play a couple hours here and there. There's that, and then what is it? Oh yeah, Golden Sun 1 and 2 are two RPGs that came out on the Game Boy Advance. When I was a kid, I never played them. They never looked interesting to me, but they're like traditional JRPGs. They're made by Nintendo though, and they're supposed to be excellent. And I love like the 32-bit stuff. But those are coming out on the Nintendo Virtual Console. They're coming out today or tomorrow. I have to check my Switch. So if you have like the Game Boy Advance app or whatever on Switch, those will be on there. So I really want to jump into those and try them out. So that's on my mind. And then there's one other game I'll mention that we didn't mention, and it's coming out on PlayStation 5 next month. It's called Ultros. I don't know if y'all have seen it, but it's like a Metroidvania game, but the art style is like super psychedelic. Like, trust me, if you checked it out, it looks straight up like a lot of that psychedelic art you see. It's like the mushrooms and the colors, and it's super. But then it's like the Metroid style of gameplay. It's a side scroller. It's an indie game, and
This looks cool.
yeah, dude, it looks awesome. And I think I want to say it's from a Spanish or Mexican, and I'm probably wrong on that, but I was gonna say Spanish or Mexican based studio, which is really unique.
Adoke El Huervo.
Yeah, right. I never heard of them, but I love Metroid. Like that's one of my favorite series, and like anything that tries to be like it, I'll check out. So anyway, I've seen some gameplay for it. Like I said, it comes out next month, but I'm really excited for that, and I think it's only like $20, so I'll try to find a way to get it. But yeah, that's what's on the docket. Other than that, like a bunch of random Switch games that I think I mentioned earlier, and then just other whatever I feel like playing that's already on my PlayStation day to day. But yeah, good question. And then
So before signing out, I just want to say, we'll probably have another chat coming up in a few days where, just what you're seeing right now, just chatting about a wide array of things, and not decided yet, but more of these let's plays where you guys are playing something too. So just for anybody watching, stay tuned to see whatever game it is next we play.
Yeah, for sure.
sounds
Well, this has
good.
been fun. I like revisiting this. I like talking about it with people
Mhm.
that know something about it and are learning about it. And I'm excited for you to play through it because this game definitely deserves the attention if you like video games, and especially something with such a big history.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it so far, and it's definitely helping out too to have other people that are enthusiastic about it to kind of push me on.
Definitely.
Um,
Cool, guys. Well,
until next time.
everybody, good night.
All right, see
Take
ya.
care. It's been fun. Later, guys.